Okay, that's fine. All right, good morning. Morning, sir. Yes. Okay. All right. So in how many minutes are you joining us? Say in how many minutes am I joining one? Okay, sir. All right, sir.
Kudirat Abiola will. Good morning.
You're welcome, Madam Kofo.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
Can you hear me? Thank God.
Hello, ma. Well done. Salam. Okay. Have you joined? Yeah, you have not joined, right? Okay.
Where is it? Banner Junior.
Yes, sir. I'm just trying to
Hello, everyone. This is The Dialogue, a series on the state of education, particularly basic education in Nigeria. The Dialogue is sponsored by the Wole Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism under its Regulators Monitoring Program, REMOP, and it's brought to you by Strictly Speaking in partnership with Premium Times. I'm Bimbo Oloyede, and I'm your host for this 6-part series. Our discussions are based on stories that were written by journalists who were sponsored to observe, investigate, and report on issues related to basic education. In this 5th episode of The Dialogue, I will be joined by 2 reporters, Adeniton Akinola of Federal Radio Corporation of Nigeria, and he's based in Osogbo, and Kofo Bello Osage, Education Desk Editor of the Nation newspaper in Lagos. We're also expecting 2 special guests, one from Osun State and the other from Kano State, but I will introduce them shortly. Today, we're going to be discussing the state of special needs education across the country. Let's begin by identifying children with special needs. The National Policy on Education, as revised in 2013, specifies that a child has special needs based on visual impairment, hearing impairment, physical and health impairment, intellectual disabilities, emotional and behavioral disorders, speech and language impairment, learning disabilities, multiple disabilities, the gifted and talented, and albinos. Well, it's no secret that Basic Education Act provides free and compulsory basic education to children of school age. Although this includes children with special needs, reports indicate that only 6 out of 10 children with disabilities can read and write, and only 1/3 of such children finish secondary school education. Well, let's take off. Adeniton, I think I'm going to start with you. You investigated the special needs schools actually in Osun, in Ekiti States, and also Ondo State. Now, how are these schools providing for children with special needs? What's your assessment of what you found on the ground? Adeniton, welcome. Are you there? Yes, there you are. Thank you very much for joining the dialogue. Did you hear the question? Can you please unmute? Kindly unmute, Adeniton. Okay. Did you hear the question?
Yes. No. Hello.
You did.
Can you hear me now?
Good morning. Yes, I can. Good morning again, and welcome to the dialogue. Yes, hello? I can hear you. Okay. Hello, I can.
Okay. Hello. Good morning. Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes. You asked
yes, so,
my assessment.
Exactly. My assessment of, your assessment of what you found on the ground when you visited special needs schools in 3 states, Osun, Ekiti, and Ondo states.
Yes, I visited those schools in 2017, thereabout. And of course, I must start with the different phases of my assessment. I will start from the state of infrastructure and also maybe the quality of the curriculum of those schools. Number one, there is a serious deficit in those schools. For example, Osun State has 9 of such schools located in Osogbo, Ilesha, Iwo, Ekio, and so on. So 9 schools. Ondo State has about 6, and Ekiti State has 3. In Osun State, for example, the school in Oshogbo, the school for the special needs children in Oshogbo, the school has also, infrastructure deficit. For example, there is a classroom challenge. The classroom in those schools, in the school, is not enough. Hostels accommodation for the students, not also enough. But the one that is available is a little bit distance from the toilet. The hostel is separated from the toilet, and the toilet is about 50 meters or thereabout to the hostel. So if a child with sight impairment who want to use the toilet probably late at night, where probably there is no light because there is no generator in that place, and the place is not well illuminated. So that means that the child will either require the help of somebody to access that toilet, which is about 50 meters away from where he is. Otherwise, it will be difficult for the child to go there. And even the school premises too, it does not support education for people with special needs, particularly people that has sight impairment. The problem of at the school compound and erosion has washed away some part of the school compound. So a child, even if a child has a stick, it will be difficult to use the stick to navigate correctly around the school premises, except such a child as a guide. Then you now come to teaching aids. You now talk about teaching aids itself. For the blind, that you need the brailleys. The braille machine is not enough for the blind. Some of those require to buy other people with such challenges, like those with hearing impairment, those who have disability of, who can move their body very well. I'm trying to be careful of my language now. They don't have sufficient equipment that require to pass, to teach them. Then, if you look at the number of teachers now, of course, the number of teachers is also inadequate. For example, Osun State has a special secondary schools for people with for special children with special needs. This school has only 2 teachers that teaches blind people, and the blind class has GS1 to SS3. So only 2 teachers are specialists in taking care of blind students. So this is grossly inadequate. And if you look at the medical facility of the school, of course, it's even zero. There is a building allocated for that purpose, donated by one of the NGOs. But the building is not well equipped that could provide such medical care for the student. Then, majorly also, the school, that the primary section is fenced, but the secondary section is not fenced. So there is a problem of security. And most of the students in the secondary wing of the school, they are adults, people with disability before you get them to school. Some of them in secondary school are even about 20 something years old, and they are well mature. So that's potentially a security issue to those people because the school is not fenced. Even the one in Adeke in Iwo is also not fenced. The other ones are also not fenced. Then when you now come to Ekiti too, Ekiti has, of course, a very serious problem. The one in Ikere, which you call the school for special children, that's where the school that house people with impairment, the blind, the deaf, the physically challenged, all of them are housed in the same compound. And if you look at the hostel is a tethered block, no net, the windows are removed. A lot of things are not just working and functioning there. The school has used to have a bus. At the time I visited, it did not even have one. So it will be difficult to mobilize these students or these pupils for anything outside the school premises. Then the topography of the school premises also does not support to move around the school except they are guided. Then if you come to Ondo State, the one in Ondo State Elite 2 has Ondo State has Elite 2 of infrastructure basically better level. Now, talking about the curriculum of those schools visited, of course, they have standard curriculum required to provide such special education. But one of the most worrisome things about this was that, for example, in Osun State schools, but neglected the school for special children. In fact, nothing of that got mentioned. during that period. The school for special children did not even get mentioned at all. One other school got sufficient attention from the government. So my assessment in summation is that the attitude of the society to people with disability or to physical challenge is the same attitude that we have to the education. Because in this part of the world, we tend to discriminate, we tend to look at people as also show to their education, and that could explain these gross infrastructure deficits that. Hello? Hello, can you still hear
Yes,
me?
I can. I'm sorry, I'm having a few issues with my setup here. But nevertheless, I heard what you said. I understand the situation as it is on the ground, and from everything that you said, there's obviously quite a deficit gap when it comes to infrastructure and even facilities and curriculum. Okay, now before I ask my next question, which is going to be for my colleague who is based in Lagos, I'd like to welcome and acknowledge the presence of two more special guests. First of all, we have the chairman of the Osun State Universal Basic Education Board, Honorable Ajibola Famurewa. You're welcome to the dialogue. Good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning. And I'd also like to welcome Hussaina all the way from Kano. She's the vice chairperson of the Kano Educational Foundation for the Disabled. Hussaina Lami Umar, thank you for joining us this morning. Okay, so thank you once again, Adenito. Kofo Bello Osage, you are the education desk editor at the Nation newspaper. And you've been reporting on educational matters for the last 15 years. What challenges have you been able to identify? I mean, we've heard about what's happening in 3 of the Southwest states. You're based in Lagos. Perhaps you can give us a little bit of information about what is happening in Lagos. What challenges have you identified in Lagos State?
Hello, thank you. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Good morning. Yes, I can.
Okay. Thank you. In Lagos State, there are 5 special schools, 5 public special schools, then 31 inclusive units. Now, these are special schools within mainstream schools. They have their special classes for children with disabilities, and they have their special teachers that teach them in those mainstream primary and secondary. Most of them are in primary schools and a few in secondary schools that make up those 31 inclusive units. The 5 special schools, the public special schools, they are the oldest. They've been there for many decades. The most popular being Modupeko Memorial Child Treatment and Home School in Akoka. And the school is home to all kinds of disabilities. People living with, you can say, they're not just children, there are even many adults that have been there for years, living with disabilities, and there are all kinds. You have the hearing impaired, but usually more of intellectual disabilities, cerebral palsy, and they are divided into 2. They have the educable and the trainable. So they try to educate those that are educable, those that can learn to read and write to an extent. Then the trainable, they give vocational skills. But there are some that have just even been abandoned in such places. So that is for Modupeko. There's Atudaolu. There's Atudaolu Special School in Surulere. Then there is the Igobi Special Needs School within Igobi Hospital. Then there's the Wesley School, School 1 and School 2 for the hearing impaired. Those are the special needs schools that are in Lagos State. In terms of access, those special needs schools are insufficient because they are not spread across the state. They cannot accommodate more than the number, more than a certain number, and they cannot accommodate all people with all kinds of learning disabilities that are spread across the state. Like most of them are located within the mainland. You have in Akoka, you have in Surulere, you have 3 in Atudaolu, Wesley School 1 and Wesley School 2. 3 schools are in Surulere, then 1 in Akoka, then the 5th is in Pariga or thereabout. Is it Shomolu? Shomolu, I think. That Igbobi should be around that Shomolu side. So you can imagine that they are concentrated in just one part of Lagos. So that's why the mainstream schools came up, the inclusive units. But 31 inclusive units for the whole of Lagos State are insufficient. No, we are even talking about the insufficiency. We have not even talked about whether they are friendly for, they are accessible for the class of learners they deal with. The Lagos State government has spoken for a long time about increasing the number, that there were plans to increase the number of inclusive units. But I know the 31 units were established in the time that Dr. Leke Piton was commissioner for education, and we are talking about the early 2000s. And since then, there's been no additional school. There's been no additional school. Yeah.
So basically, one of the major challenges that you have identified is the fact that most of the schools that are available are clustered in within a particular region or vicinity of Lagos, and they need to be more widely spread. Okay, so thank you so much. We'll come back to you. I'd like to bring in the chairman of the Osun State Universal Basic Education Board, Honorable Ajibola Famurewa. Once again, you're welcome to the dialogue, sir. Now, state universal basic education boards were established to provide access to basic and junior secondary level education to all children. And it's clear from the reports that we have had that there are gaps and inconsistencies, especially when it comes to children with special needs. This is actually the purview of the chairman of State Universal Basic Education Boards. So I'd like to ask you what actions have been taken in Osun State to provide adequate funds as well as adequate attention to special needs education. Honorable, are you still with us? Hello, Honorable Famurewa. We seem to have lost the connection. All right, let me come back to you, Kofo, because I know that you are running away quite soon. You have an assignment. Can you say something briefly about assessment and diagnosis? Because presumably before the children are actually assigned to the various schools, they do have to go through that assessment and diagnosis process. Could you just give us a bit of insight into that process?
Okay, thank you. About the popular disabilities that we know, that's hearing impairment, sight, blindness, and hearing impairment, physical challenges are the popular disabilities that are known, that are obvious, that they are easily detectable by maybe family members of family of the child. So, and the school system seems to easily cater to those impairments. So they easily know that this is the special needs you go to. But there are other disabilities that are also not, they are not obvious, like autism, that families may miss, and the child will be in the mainstream school and not doing well. That is the problem in Lagos State and maybe the whole of Nigeria. Many families don't know that at this age, if this child is not doing something, flag it and go to the hospital and get a diagnosis. Or the school, and even teachers, some teachers don't know how to assess that this child by this age, but usually the age of assessment for some of these disabilities is the age of 4. By the age of 4, is the child social? Is it maintaining social? Is the child having social interactions with others? Does the child have repetitive behavior? Is the child able to do some activities? And does the child scream at a certain time? Is the child violent or prone to violence or all these things? Those are pointers to issues, but some families don't know, people don't know. And they just keep on saying the child is stubborn, the school system neglects them. Excuse me, there's also the problem of dyslexia. Dyslexia is a disability that has to do with reading. And in every population, in every population of at least 20% or thereabout, or then a percentage must be dyslexic. So in every class, there's a dyslexic child. But as the teacher, if the teacher doesn't know that this child is dyslexic, the teacher will say this child is lazy, this child doesn't perform well. So even on the part of teachers, their training does not give them exposure to assess children with learning disabilities. So this is one area that government has to take care of, to train all teachers to be able to screen for disabilities to an extent, so that all learners in their classes can get the necessary attention. They can call the attention of the school, they can call the attention of the parents to say this child at this age should be able to do this, not doing that, please go and assess. And they go to the hospitals and meet the professionals there, the clinical professionals. Thank you very much to assess it.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate the answers that you have given us. Honorable, you're back.
Yes, I'm back.
Yes, we want you to, but I'm happy to see that you're back with us. I'm sure that you've been following the conversation, though, and and you've heard about quite a lot of the existing gaps that are there.
Yes,
well,
especially from
let's hear what's happening in Osun State. One of our guest reporters has actually assessed schools over a period of time, but we'd like to hear what the Osun State government is doing as regards providing adequate funds and adequate attention to special needs education. Good morning once again.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we have 9 schools for special students in Osun State. Let me first start by talking about the basic education.
Honorable, can I please suggest that you lose the video? There does seem to be some technical issues. Perhaps if you stop the video, we'd be able to hear you more clearly. Honorable, can you hear me?
Can I go ahead?
Yes, but I'm suggesting that, okay, yes, you stopped the video. Please go ahead. We're just trying to hear you. You know, the connectivity is rather poor this morning. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Yeah, I'm saying that in Osun State, we have 9 of such schools for both primary and secondary school. And I want to tell you categorically that the support from the state government to these schools in terms of their feeding allowance, it has been so regular on a monthly basis. That I can attest to. And presently, when one of my brother was, delivering his presentation at that time, he talks about the infrastructure deficit in some places. Well, in Osun State, I can tell you that we've been working seriously on how to improve on the infrastructure of these schools. Presently, if you go to Nisha and the one in Osogbo, you will see the new structures being constructed and the renovation going on. Apart from that, we are mounting fence, constructing fence around the school so that the security of these students is so paramount in our mind. We want to make sure they are in a very secure environment. And hostel as well, we are working on it to make sure they are in a very conducive environment. I want to talk about the teachers. Yes, I know we have a shortage of teachers everywhere, but presently there is a process going on to recruit more teachers in Osun State, and special consideration has been given to the teachers that we teach in these special schools. That we have a specialized teachers that we can't just deploy any teacher to these schools. There has to be a professional in, those who are trained specially on how to handle.
We do seem to be having some technical issues. Honorable, we've lost you. Okay, well, at least we've been able to garner from Osun State that new buildings are being constructed, and there's an ongoing drive to bring in teachers, especially teachers for the schools with special needs. Okay, so whilst we're hoping that we'll be able to connect, or reconnect, I should say, with the Honorable Famurewa, let's see if we can connect with Hussaina in Kano. Hussaina, are you there? Is Hussaina on the call? Hussaina Lami Umar, Vice Chairperson, Kanawa Educational Foundation for the Disabled. Hello, is Hussaina there? Can you please unmute? I believe you're there on the call.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I'm there. I'm listening.
Ah, great. Thank you very much. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on the dialogue.
You're welcome, morning.
Thank you. Now, we have done a bit of research, and we understand that Nigeria has 1,177 special needs schools across the 36 states and the FCT. Apparently, Kano has the highest number. You have 153 schools. Kaduna comes second with 79 and Lagos with 75. Now, with the work that you do, can you please give us a brief overview of the situation in Kano? And perhaps you can also tell us a little bit about how your organization supports these special schools.
Okay. Well, my organization, Kanawa Educational for the Disabled, what we normally do is that we pick children off the street that our parents are less privileged or the beggars of the street. If they are interested in education, we pick them off the street, we take them to schools, we take the responsibility of their school fees and books and uniforms. And we do go there to see, we do supervise to see their performance and so on. That is what we normally do. But for the schools in Kano, yeah, we have special schools, but we have a lot of challenges because some of the buildings are not disability friendly. And again, most of the schools, they don't have conducive teaching environment for children with disability. And education for people with visually impaired, it is very, very expensive because they use stylus, slate, braille, and so on. So it is very, very expensive. And again, we have this issue of not having enough teachers because in one of the special needs schools we went to see what is going on, they don't have chemistry teacher, physics teacher, and literature teachers, which is very, very important for them because some of the children, some of them, they want to go into doctors and so on, while the other ones want to go into journalists, and they don't have these teachers. You see, their dreams cannot be achieved. We have to keep pushing. We have to see what we can do. We are thinking of, since we used to have these youth corpers, we are thinking of bringing them in as a volunteers in the schools. That is if they are trained as special education. So a lot of things, because you see, even this hearing impairment, even these people with disability that have hearing impairment, some of them, it is not all the teachers that are qualified to teach them. And for those of them that are mentally retarded at times, they don't even enroll them in schools because the schools keep complaining, no, they'll be disturbing their class, they are too troublesome and so on. So at times the challenges are too much that at times you don't even know how to handle the issues. So it's not an easy task.
Yes, I can imagine that it is a difficult task. And I applaud the passion with which you do your work. Let me remind everybody that this is the Dialogue Education Series. We're discussing the state of basic education, particularly special needs schools in Nigeria. And the dialogue is sponsored by the Wale Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism under its Regulators Monitoring Program. And it's brought to you by Strictly Speaking in partnership with Premium Times. Now, I wonder whether we can hear Honorable Famurewa. Are you back with us? Okay, apparently not. Hussaina, let me continue with you. It has been 8 years since the National Policy on Education gave us a definition for special needs children. Now, I don't know if you think that that definition is still relevant. Are we facing the same kind of social and economic conditions in Nigeria as we did in 2013? Because that's the time, actually, 2013, that the National Policy on Education.
I'm having a problem with
your feeling about that? What's your thinking? Okay.
Yeah.
I would
said earlier that
oh dear, today is really quite a challenge for us technically. Hussaina, I was talking about the National Policy on Education. Can you hear me?
I was not close up. Yes, I'm not close to the phone.
Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me? Yes, can you hear me?
I'm not feeling fine. I will call you. I'm on drip. I will call you. I'm coming. I'm on drip.
Oh, it seems as if she's actually not not in a very good condition health-wise. If that's the case, please take it easy. Thank you very much for joining the call, even in your condition. I mean, that really does show you us, how passionate you are.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Who's speaking? Hussaina? Yes, I can hear you.
Yes.
Were you?
Hello?
Okay. Hello, I can hear you. Hussaina, I can see your hand and I can
please
hear
come
you.
again. I didn't get your question, please. I didn't get your question. Please come again.
Okay, I will. Apparently, somebody else might have been talking to you. Now, I was talking about the National Policy on Education, and I did say that 8 years ago, we were given a definition for special needs children. A lot of things have happened within this last 8 years, and I'm wondering if that definition is still relevant. Are we facing the same kind of socio-economic problems and issues as we did 8 years ago? What do you think?
Well, I don't think it's relevant because nothing is working in special schools. To me, your education for persons with disability, we are at the 0 level. Because it's like they don't even understand us, even the teachers that teaches special needs education. Because a lot have to be done when it comes to, we have to get teachers that are very, very patient and tolerant, that know how it felt to have a child with disability. Because most of there are children with disability that are slow learners. They are slow learners that if they don't have these teachers that are very, very tolerant and patient, they won't just get what they want. In short, it's not easy because I have went to a lot of schools that deals with special schools. At times, I don't like the way they treat the children. At times, I don't even like the way they teach. Because they need a special consideration, a special attention, even from the teachers. So I don't think the teachers are kind of trying their best. And I don't think the governments themselves are concerned with our issues. Because come and see the schools around us, most especially here in North. It is nothing to write home about. And they are special schools. So a lot have to be done. A lot have to be done.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Hussaina. I am almost reluctant to ask this question, but I do have to ask it. Honorable Famarewa, are you with us? Are you back with us?
Yes,
can you hear me?
Yes, you can hear you. Yeah, you can hear you.
Okay. Hussaina, can you please mute your sound?
Okay.
Thank you very much. Honorable, can you hear me? All right. Well, that's not going to stop us from continuing with our conversation. Adenito, I hope you're still there. Adenito, are you with us? Well, they are both in Osun State, and perhaps they both have the same issues. Okay, Kofo, please let me come back to you. I'm glad to see that
I am still with you.
Oh, great! Thank you so much. Thank you. Now, I think we have to talk about funding because so many of the issues that have been brought up today really have to do with funds. If we're talking about facilities, we're talking about hearing aids, we're talking about braille systems. What do you know about the counterpart funding, the payment of counterpart funding that should have been done and could have been done by Osun State?
Well, I think President Osun State is trying to pay the 2020 counterpart funding. So if we, on that basis, that means that Osun State has not paid 2020 and 2021. Basically, and once you don't pay your counterpart fund, you cannot also get fund from the commission. So presently, Osun State, as the chairman told me yesterday, that they are trying to pay for 2020, the 2020 counterpart funding. So that means that we still have 2021, 2020 outstanding. And that is the state. I mean, that's the state it is in Osun State.
Okay, that's the situation in Osun State.
Yes.
It would have been nice to have, to have him tell us himself. But since you are there on the ground, I'm sure that, you have up-to-date information. Okay, so 2 years, that's what we're talking about here. 2 years of counterpart funding has not been paid, or matching funds, I think I should say, have not been paid. And we have very, very expensive equipment that need to be bought. So let me ask both you, Ade,
Yes.
as well
Yes.
as Koko. Yes, let me ask what you know about efforts that state governments are making to reach out to the private sector. Because, well, even if all payments are made, from everything that you've said, the truth is that the money is not going to be enough, which means that we all have to somehow be involved. I mean, the stakeholders go across board. So what do you know about efforts that state governments are making to bring in commitments from maybe private sectors, maybe NGOs? I don't know. You are the people on the ground.
Okay.
Perhaps you can give us some information.
Okay. Well, I hope you can hear me. Hello?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Now, let me start from this perspective. The major problem of even the funding of this of special education itself is also a victim of our socio-cultural disposition. Now, how do I mean? Our socio-cultural disposition of discriminating against certain people. It is historical, it is part of our culture. It is just because now that we are trying to say, look, embrace everybody, they are part of us. Because if you look at us by our culture, in fact, in every state in this country, as far as I even know around us there, some parents keep their children home. They don't even bring them to those schools, despite the fact that those schools are free of charge. Government feed them, but many parents still keep their own children at home. They don't even bring them to school. And that is and this kind of attitude too. When government has 100 naira to spend on primary education, basic education, government would rather spend 95 naira on schools for people without physical challenge, without disability, and spend 5 naira on schools for people with disabilities. Now, the same attitude of government also reflects on the private sector. You know that not only the private sector in Nigeria does not support education as much, rather they promote show business. And this, rather than them to come and say, do something, cogent, something, critical, attend to a critical need in schools, they rather go and promote position and sponsor shows. Now, today, the government in Osun State, as far as we know, I know they are trying to reach out to some private sectors to get involved in funding education. But I'm not sure the government has reached out enough in respect of saying, come and fund the special needs education. For example, like I said, the past administration in Osun State from 2010 to 2018,
we seem to have lost touch with Adenito. Honorable, you're back. Can you hear me? Honorable Famurewa, can you hear me? Yes, I know the network is poor, but my colleague has said one or two things. about the Osun State government reaching out for assistance to fund special needs schools. So I am hoping that you can make a response to that. Honorable Famariwa, are you there? Okay, well, Kofo, are you still around? Yes, I think you are. Can you hear me, Kofo?
Yes, I can.
You can?
Yes,
all
I
right.
can.
So thank you very much. Now, can you give us a little bit of information? Do you have any idea of what Lagos State government could be doing to help to raise funds for special needs schools?
Akin's all right. As I said, it's this. It seems the situation in Osun is really not much different from that of Lagos. Lagos does a lot of partnership with private sector regarding education, but the special needs part is not very significant. It's not something that we hear about or they are promoting. You have many projects, zero projects to get children out of school, back into school, then for infrastructure, adopt a school, all those are popular. But there's active private sector involvement in many special schools, the popular special schools exactly, that get visits for donations mostly. Those ones get all those kind of regular donations. But strategic partnership that I have seen is more of the private sector, maybe reaching out to do specific programs. For instance, there's a private special needs school called Center for Child Development Center, also in Surulere. Surulere seems to be a hub. And these special needs schools takes children with autism and some other spectrums that you will not see in the regular special schools. But their parents have to pay for it. But this school reaches out to government schools, trains public school teachers, and even reaches out to parents with special needs children. That's parents of the downtrodden. That's downtrodden parents. Parents at the lowest rung of the society. Maybe they are traders in the market and don't really know so much about these special needs. These schools know the need for support, that caregivers need to be supported, and tries to provide training and support for them, telling them that we know that it is very difficult to be a caregiver for a child with special needs, but you can do this, do that. So they hold regular training. So it's like, I would say it's more of a private sector reaching out to government, doing their program. They will just tell the government that we want to do this program. We want to do this program in this special needs school. Please make your people available. That kind of partnership is more common when it's usually private sector led. The private sector in Lagos is very active. And I know that, for instance, GT Bank sponsors an autism conference every year. And it involves many specialists, especially from these government hospitals and institutions, then private sector educators of people living with the children with disabilities. So I would say it's more private sector led in Lagos State. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kofo. I think I would also like to throw that question to Hussaina. I hope you can hear me. Hussaina, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, yes. So can you say anything about initiatives in Kano to raise funds? And then I also have a question. Mr. Bankole actually sent in a question. He says that he would like to hear you talk about success stories as well. Yes, that everything should not be a negative situation. There must be some success stories, especially with the efforts that you have been making with your organization. So please speak to those two things, success stories and initiatives to raise funds for schools with special needs in the Kano area.
Well, since my organization is an NGO, is a non-government organization, what we normally do is that the way we just do our things is that we join money within ourselves because we are all workers to make sure that these things are going on fine. And we work with other organizations like PALS and other organizations. So right now we are having a project with Site Savers. What the project is inclusive work. So we use all these things to minimize what we have to make sure that we are taking care of these things. Well, but raising fund is not easy here in Kano. It's not easy because we are not joint. We are not a joint association for persons with disability. We are on our own. So whatsoever fund is coming in, it has to be for joint, not for organizations that are on their own, if it has to do with issues with persons with disability. So there is no way they can help us. That is from the government because they deal with only the Joint Association of Persons with Disability. So we don't have any link with them for them to give us money or to raise any fund. We raise our fund through all these NGOs that wants to help, that has passion for persons with disability. So that is what we normally do.
And your success stories, because it's a success in itself that you are able to, come together and work together to do what you can for people with disabilities. But can you remember one specific story that you can refer to as a success story? Once you're thinking about that.
Yes, we have a very successful story because, because most of our children are graduates now. Some of them, we even get them job. And through our organization, we tried our best to see that the governor himself signed a disability bill, which we are still working under Commission for Persons with Disability to work in Kano State. So we have a lot of success.
I'm glad to hear that. That's a very positive note to say thank you to you for your contribution. And I also want to say thank you to Professor Omoto Oloriode, who's an observer on this call. He's a retired professor and a founding member, actually, of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU. Thank you so much for being part of this call. Now,
thank you, Bimbo, for anchoring this very beautiful discussion. Thank you.
Great. Honorable, I can see your picture very, very clearly now, but I just hope that I can hear your voice clearly too. Whilst we were trying to get back to you, or you were trying to get back to us, we did have some discussion about funding. And we heard that the Osun State government is still trying to pay its own matching fund for 2020 and 2021. Of course, you know that most of the things that have to be done can't be done without funding. So maybe you can give us a little bit of insight as to when such funds will be paid, and also include for us efforts that the government is making to invite commitment, to bring in commitment from maybe private sector organizations or even individuals to ensure that your work goes smoothly. Honorable, please unmute.
Hello, can you hear me?
Thank you. Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. In terms when we're talking about the UBEC funding, there is a process to it. You need to get your action plan ready. That has been done. You need to make your counterpart funding ready. you are going to remit that to the bank before they release their funds eventually. We are working on 2020-2021, and I believe any moment from now, the money will be released to us so that we can, swing into action in the executing the project in 2020-2021. Then I want to talk about the funding of special schools in Osun State. It has been fully funded by the state government, and they are not even playing, with the release of funds when it comes to special needs. The government gave that sector a special consideration. Recently, Mr. Governor even called for review of the allowance given to those. If you look at the situation of the country, there's inflation on everything. So Governor now said we should review the amounts given to each school for upkeep on monthly basis. That one has been done, which I believe will be implemented in the next months. There are a lot of programs in place now to make sure we have more braille textbooks for these sight impaired students. They need more textbooks so that they will learn well and understand. In terms of curriculum, the curriculum we are operating in is in line with national curriculum. We are not toying with that, but what we are doing in terms of teacher is to make sure we have a competent hands, the qualified teachers, that are specially trained to handle special students. Those are the people we are drafting to special schools so that they will be able to handle these children the way they will understand and learn well within their environment. As well, the state government is trying as much as possible to make sure we have a conducive environment in all our schools. Innovation of their classrooms and construction of leaves. We are even mounting fence around the schools to make sure we secure these students in their learning environment. Those are the things we are working on, how to get the maggot slates for the schools that makes it. And there is a recruitment of for special teachers that will be drafted to these special schools. Any moment from now, the list will be released, and these teachers will be drafted to work in all those places. And the allocation to all these schools has been very regular. I can attest to that. So these are the things that we have been doing. Government has been prompt in paying the subvention and allocation to all these schools in what we've been doing. So in Osun State, we've been working seriously, making sure that the students, the physically challenged students in our states are not feeling inferior to their colleagues in other schools. And what we are working on is first 9 years, which covers the basic education. That is primary 1 to 6 and the junior secondary 1 to 3. And that we've been doing regularly. Hello?
Can't hear you.
Hello? Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay,
I was saying,
okay.
Yes, I was saying that we've almost run out of time, really, but and it's unfortunate that we were not able to engage you more thoroughly during this program. But perhaps you could just talk about one more aspect, and that is discrimination.
Okay.
Some of these children with special needs, they face discrimination and rejection from their peers in and out of school. And some of the tragic consequences that we have been able to hear about, sadly, in recent times, all somehow seem to speak to the possibility of discrimination. What do you think can be done to address this situation, especially in special needs facilities and schools that probably have integrated units? What do you say about that, Honorable?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think this has to do with the societal problem. In the society generally, we are prone to discriminating, between ourselves generally. irrespective of the class he belongs to. But in this case, we need to actually, do a lot of sensitization to let people know that these people, they have the same right as the other, as their colleagues in other class. So we just need to start people and make sure in the part of government, let me say the government has, they put a lot of things in place to make sure they give these students a special consideration. Special consideration in your application. For example, what I said earlier in terms of recruitment of teachers, anybody that has a challenge that apply for that exercise, I think they gave them automatic consideration. That is to give them, they have edge over their colleagues. But generally in the society, we are
Thank you very much, Honorable. I'm sorry, I wasn't able to catch everything that you said, especially towards the end of your contribution. But what I can comment on is that you spoke about the need for people to be more empathetic within society, that we really ought to consider everybody within society as our brother, our sister, our neighbor. Because the truth is that nobody really knows how and when such challenges could come up. Well, we really have run out of time. I want to thank my guests very, very much. We have had an enriching, even though a challenging discussion about special needs education in Nigeria. And I am grateful. I'm grateful to the chairman of the Osun State Universal Basic Education Board, Honorable Famurewa. I'm also grateful.
Hello? Sorry. Okay, Kashiki, now go back and eat. We will talk to Daddy. Come.
Trash.
Can I hear you, ma?
Hello? Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes,
okay.
I just hear it.
Okay, all right. I was actually thanking all my guests for being part of this edition of the Dialogue. Thank you to the chairman of the Osun State Universal Basic Education Board, Honorable Ajibola Famurewa. Thank you to the vice chairperson, Kanawa Educational Foundation for the Disabled in Kano, Husseina Lami Umar. Thank you to my colleagues, Adenito Okiola of FRCN in Osogbo, and Kofo Bello Osage, Education Desk Editor of the Nation newspaper in Lagos. And thank you too to everybody that has been part of this edition of the Dialogue. It's brought to you by Strictly Speaking, Premium Times, and the Wole Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism. Please join me again next week for the last episode in this 6-part series on education. It's important because education affects every single one of us. My name is Bimbo Luede. Many thanks. See you again next week.
Shit.